Back row ministry of the world premiere, Mr. Marky coming at you all live and direct from the Kia Optima Studios. So this is part two of my Us breakdown as we get the true revelation of some of Jordan Peele's intent. Like I told you guys yesterday, if you're going to be big time in Hollywood, and after you are seen as a success, they're going to use you up. We see that with Tyler Perry. They quickly use them up. And as soon as they see that they can make money off of you, they can use you to pass agendas, they're going to pass agendas. And that's all they're doing with Jordan Peele. They just used him to pass an agenda. So we talked about CERN technology that Brother Yahi talked about, or the opening of a portal. We talked about in the film how the house of mirrors becomes that portal, the link or the connection between two worlds. So we talk about Hands Across America, this idea of connecting the world by holding hands or interlocking or tethering. Remember, tethering just means connecting something or bounding something together with a rope or a chain. So the tethering of the hands together is the connection of connecting people together. We have those things like the internet, deadly devices sometimes, or deadly technologies that connect us, but at times can betray us. So we see the tethering being used. So he uses a lot of, he does a lot of discussion about the tethering. So before we jump that far, let's jump to when the idea of the tethering, we see it at the beginning of the film, the Hands Across America, but then later is kind of discussed. So like I said, we see the kind of that discussion about the portal being open in the Bay Area. We talk about San Francisco, Santa Cruz, that whole area being seen as the Golden Gate, which opens the door for whoever this person or that they see is so-called coming through it. So we're in Santa Cruz and we're talking about the beach, we're talking about the water, and Adelaide, who is the main character, she returns to the summer home, which is a summer home she's been to pretty much her whole life. Her mother passed away there, we find out. But Adelaide doesn't go to the beach. She hasn't been back to the beach since the fateful night when this incident took place, we find. So, basically, she just stays at the house. They mess around with the water at the house, but that's about it. So, when Adelaide is asked by her husband to go to the beach, we see that she begins to panic immediately. So early on, we're seeing her that she's unsteady about this idea about the beach. Something took place at the beach. We don't know what happened. We just know she bumped into another little girl. So he, tries to convince her. And the husband in this, he's the typical, kind of the clown guy who, it's kind of loosey-goosey, buys a boat, kind of trying to compete with his another person he knows in that area. I guess they see them all the time. Not a good relationship between the families. It's not really a good relationship between the families. And even him and the husband really, him and the gentleman he tries to kind of compete against really don't have the greatest relationship. They're just, competition of, who can buy what, material competition, trying to outdo each other, typical man stuff. But we see that his friend who plays the doppelganger of Tex, I forgot his name in the movie, but his wife Kelly, their relationship isn't the greatest. They cuss each other out. She's an alcoholic, he's an alcoholic. They pretty much hate each other, but they have twin daughters. So we see the duality of twins with them. So they have twin daughters, and we see one of them wearing the shirt of the rabbit, which is fertility, and the trickster. The rabbit is the trickster, but has to do a lot with fertility. Duality is fertility. So she goes to the beach. She's talking to the beach, and the whole time she's nervous while she's on the beach. So we see various signs. Some of these signs that Brother Yahi kind of breaks down. Some of the CERN technology signs you see. Some of the ties to Ishtar, the goddess of war. And she's nervous the whole time. Anything she sees kind of, gets her kind of heated. What I'm saying? She's real nervous. So, of course, the boy walks out. The boy is named Jason. Jason walks off, and he goes towards the portal. But before he gets to a portal, he sees a man just standing there in a coat and you know he really doesn't understand what it is. And mom at this time realizes that he's gone. So then she kind of snaps out. Now he's not really gone anywhere. He went to the bathroom, but she kind of snaps out. So she finds him. She's all distraught. Oh, don't run away. Don't ever run away again. You know, something could happen to you. Somebody could take you. Now she really emphasized that somebody could take it. Kind of, the husband is looking at her like, you kind of going off the deep end. He just walked down the beach. He's old enough to kind of watch out for himself, but she kind of goes off the deep end about how somebody could take him and all this, and he tells them that he saw a man in a coat just standing there with his arms out. So we see the outreach arms of those are the arms of Jesus. We also see these pictures in society's picture with the outreach arms, the outstretched arms. You see a lot of these pictures in society poses, the arm between two pillars, as we say. So they go back to the house, and you know, they get ready for bed, and the lights suddenly go off. And when the lights go off, you know, typical lights powers off. Dad trying to figure out why the power's out, and once again, the young boy who was approached by this being on the beach with the arms stretched out states that there are 4 people in our driveway. There are 4 people in our driveway. And this is when we're introduced to the others, as we say. So nobody knows who the others are, but the mother is acting very, very strange. The whole time Adelaide was acting very, very strange, as though she knew something was up. And prior to the others appearing, she tells her husband why she trips out on the beach. She tells him about her veering off into the portal or the fun house and bumping into the other girl. And when she turned and saw who the girl was her. And she was staring at her reflection, and she didn't understand what was going on. So at that point, we still don't know what happened to Adelaide. We quickly moved to her and her parents, and they're in a psychiatrist's office talking about how she doesn't talk based upon his experience and possible PTSD, stuff like that. But we really don't know what happened. We don't know. We just know she bumped into this person. That's it. And she knew the person was her, and it traumatized her. So the others show up. They're in the driveway. And of course they get into the home and begin to accost their doppelganger. So if you watched Counterpart talked a lot about, you know, how would it be when you got in front of yourself? How would the relationship be? So we see with these others that they're not like their other selves. It's not like Counterpart where they communicate, but you know, it's just something different about them. Because in Counterpart, one thing changed everything about the people on the other side. So here, pretty much kind of another dimensional look at these other people who were, just like programmed robots at a point. There's no communication, just kind of like drones. So, but they were perfect doppelgangers of the other person. So the husband, he wants to know who these people are. They make a statement that they are Americans. So that's one of the first statements that they make. But that is after Adelaide's doppelganger, who was called Red. And you know the colors of red, and we talk about red and kind of the symbolism and the numbers behind red. You see a lot of 32 inside of red. But so Red begins to tell her the story of the people she calls the tethered. After she tells Adelaide to tether herself to the table, basically bound herself to the table. So she begins to tell Adelaide the story of the tethered and the family the story of the tethered and how they've been living beneath them in the underworld, in this other dimension. Basically, so the underworld will symbolize an under dimension. And, basically you try to tie it into an experiment that they tried to create clones of people. And these clones were to be used to control the people above, which I did not understand why the clone would control the people above when the people above control the clone. But according to the film, the way they tried to write it, those below control the people above. Here we go with as above, so as below. So whatever they're doing below, they're doing above. But as above, so is below means that what they're doing above is the same things they're doing below. And that's pretty much what it was. Everything she did above affected the person below. So at some point, the person below did not want to continue to live their life like this. And as she said, the only thing that, you know, we don't have is a soul, because we have to share a soul. So if you saw the OA, the way they would teleport, or the portal they would use would be the portal of the soul. They would use the soul to jump from one time period or one pretty much one dimension to another, because humans share the one soul. So they could never free themselves truly from those below, those above, because they share the same soul. So pretty much they're the same person. It's kind of the doppelganger, the reflection of this other person, and everything I do, this person but down below is doing. So it's kind of like you're bound together. So the tethering is being bound to another person. We say that we have a bunch of different managers. We all do the same thing, but at any given point in time, somebody else wants to take over the thinking. And now with the story of the tethered, somebody decided that they wanted to take over the thinking, and that's Red. Red decided that, you know, she got to a point where she found that, okay, I'm not totally bound to this person, that I can think for myself, that although we had the same soul, you know, I can be a separate entity. And that becomes an issue, because, you know, we all need the other people in us. We say these other attitudes and behaviors in us to act a certain way, because they pretty much make up our makeup. But what happens when one tries to lead the others? So only one person can be the manager, and we want that to be original self. He takes advice from the others, but we can't let one just come out and just take the lead. Sometimes that one that takes the lead might have ulterior motives, and you know, that's what we're kind of leading up to in this film. So that's my second part of this breakdown, and we'll get into the numbers game a little more in detail. We'll focus with Red, our focus with Americans, I focus with a lot of the deep numbers, and I want to tie these into Pacific numbers that we're seeing today and tie that into Rig Sports. Peace.